Welcome to Sports Talk with RJ. I'm Steve Risser along here with Justin D'Onofrio. We got a busy week 11 of the college football season, but before we get to the games in week 11, we got to get to the unveiling of the first. We got to get to the unveiling of the first college football rankings this year, and I think it's pretty. It was it was what we thought. Ohio State being at the top. I think Georgia and Alabama being 4-5. Texas and Oklahoma being on the bubble. So it's kind of what we thought it would be. But I got to throw to Justin first. I'll tell you my reaction on the rankings after Justin. I'll let Justin go first though, and then I'll tell you my reaction. Justin, what are your reactions on these first college football playoff rankings?
I didn't have too many gripes with it. I thought they, for the most part, did a pretty good job with it, which is rare. There's an account, I forget what it is, but somebody still does all the BCS rankings, has all the same formulas. It's pretty much the same thing as this playoff ranking. So I thought was kind of interesting, but I think it kind of shows you they're leaning more into what the data says about some of these teams. But I didn't really have much gripes with it. Like my biggest one is that 25 with Tennessee. I'm like, their best win is probably Mississippi State. Like, do they really need to be in there? Or
Yeah, but Tennessee. It doesn't matter though because Tennessee's out of it anyways.
I know, but and just seeing that, I thought there were some bit more deserving teams in the top 20, at 25 than them. But Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M all made kind of sense there. The one thing I kind of had, kind of two things with the Big 12 and ACC conference. The Big 12's got to be really kind of happy where they're at. You got 3 teams in the top 13. And all 3 of those teams are ahead of all the ACC teams, and Virginia's at 14. And that's so Big 12, as long as they don't, I think BYU's going to slip big time. We'll see if Utah kind of continue to stay pace here, but I don't really mind it. But I think in the Big 12, you feel pretty good about where you're at in the ACC. Probably going to be a one big league. The only chance you have is Georgia Tech beating Miami and then losing a close game in the ACC championship games. The only way I think you get 2 out of the ACC.
Yeah, and the Big 12 is my biggest gripe. Is where these Big 12 teams are ranked, in my opinion. These Big 12 teams should not – Texas Tech should not be number 8. I'm sorry. Texas Tech should not be number 8. Try to explain to me why Texas Tech should be number 8. They lost to Arizona State. They're not a better team than – they're not a better team – is that the reason why? Because to me, they're not a better team than Oregon. Yeah. I'm sorry. They're not a better team than Texas. They're not a better team than Oklahoma. They're not. Those teams should – and honestly, I don't think they're a better team than Notre Dame. Those teams should not be – Texas Tech should not – but the backup quarterback thing, is that the reason why?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it there. I get it there that it's the backup quarterback thing. But Utah being 13 too. That's my other gripe of it. Utah being 13. To me, Utah shouldn't be 13. They should be – how is Vanderbilt, who lost to – they lost 2 tough SEC games. They lost to Alabama, Vanderbilt. And then I'm trying to remember who they lost to. They lost to Texas. They lost at Texas. They lost at Texas and at Alabama.
10.
Well, they lost 34-31. They lost by 3. It's a 60-minute game. They lost to Alabama and Texas. Utah should not be out of Vanderbilt. That is my biggest gripe with this thing. Utah should not be ahead of Vanderbilt. I'm sorry. Vanderbilt is a better team than Utah. They are a better team. I've seen Vanderbilt play this year. They're a better team in Utah. Utah, yeah, I know Utah lost to Texas Tech and BYU, but
back a quarterback.
All right.
Or no, he did play, but he was hurt.
Okay.
He was not healthy.
All right, but I get it. But Utah should not be ahead of Vanderbilt. I don't think they should be ahead of Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt should be ahead. I think Vanderbilt should be ahead of Louisville, Virginia, and Utah. They should be ahead of all those teams. They should be ahead. I'm sorry. Vanderbilt should be ahead of those teams. I don't think Vanderbilt is properly rated here. And I think Utah is a little bit overrated. And one of my last gripe, it's not a huge one, A&M should be number 1. A&M should be number 1. What's Ohio State? I know Indiana's got a signature win. What's really – I know Ohio State beat Texas, but Texas A&M went into Notre Dame and won, and they went into LSU. I know LSU is not that good this year, but they destroyed LSU on a Saturday night in Baton Rouge. They have better wins. Texas A&M should be number 1. Right now they're playing like the best team in the country. They should be number 1.
Well, what I think helps Ohio State right now is that they went into Washington at 23 and they pretty much dominated them.
Okay,
Indiana's got the. I will say, Indiana's got the best win of the year at Oregon.
they
At
do
number
the
9
best wing,
Oregon.
and they have a pretty good win at Iowa. They got a pretty good win at Iowa. It's close, but I would still say Texas A&M to go into Notre Dame and LSU on a Saturday night and win those two games and win convincingly and pretty much end the Brian Kelly era at LSU. I think they should be number one.
I'm fine with Ohio State. I just think they're the most like Ohio State really hasn't put their foot down yet on anybody. Well, you will see in a couple weeks with Michigan. Like that, this is the year where
Yeah.
you put the throttle down on Michigan, beat them by 30 if you can. But like Brian Day hasn't done that yet. You know, Indiana's done that. The A&M, the LSU game for A&M, they kind of quit on Brian Kelly in that second half. Like that, they were great to them. Nobody goes into Death Valley and wins like that, but they did beat an LSU team that's quit. I'm fine with Ohio State because I do think they're the best team in the country. Even though the committee chairman's like, whoever was in one of the quotes I saw was, "Yeah, we like Ohio State number one because their offensive line." I'm like, that's probably the weakest part of their team is the offensive line right now. But okay,
the quarterbacks played great. The receivers are great. The defense is the best in the country, no question.
Oh yeah. Patricia's done an excellent job. But yeah, so I have no gripes. I think Ohio State is the most deserving. I think they're the best team in the country. I just don't think they put their foot down yet. And I think when they do in the next couple of weeks, I think it will show. Because I think they're better than last year. I've been saying this for over a month. I think they're better than they were last year.
Wow,
I think Julian Stain is the real deal.
That's the thing is I don't think their overall roster is better, but I think Stain's definitely better than Will Howard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I think he's got higher upside. The guy, every ball he makes is on the money. It's impressive. And I know he's got Jeremiah Smith and Cardell T, and I know people are like, oh, it's because of those two. It's like, no, they don't bail him out. He throws it exactly where that ball needs to be. 2027, if I'm looking for a quarterback, I'm all in on Julian Stain that year.
Yeah, Stain has played really well. And listen, Greg McElroy said last night, there's not much gripes about this. And there aren't that much for me because I think I'm nitpicking with the Texas A&M thing with Indiana, Ohio State. Just the one gripe for me is Utah.
I get it, though.
Is Utah being ahead of Vanderbilt. I'm sorry. Utah they lost 2 games in the Big 12. 2 games in the Big 12. Vanderbilt lost 2 games in the SEC in 2 tough places against 2 good teams. They should not be below Utah.
Hey, Utah lost to BYU and Texas A&M, who's in front of them. I don't think those are horrible losses. I learned a lot about Vandy on Saturday. Daniel Pavia, great story. Clark Lee done a great job. I really don't think Vandy's that. Like, what's Vandy's best win?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's LSU, I think, right?
That's what I'd go with. Maybe Missouri, but now they're on a third-string quarterback, so that's debatable. So it's either that or LSU. I think Utah's in a groove now. They're starting to play some really good football. I'd love to see them at Texas Tech play in the Big 12 championship game because I think that'd be much closer. And Devin Dampier missed like 2 or 3 practices that week at Texas Tech, and he was never on the injury report. So he did play compromised. But I really think Utah's playing good football right now. I get it. I'm surprised because SEC versus Big 12, but I like it. I think Utah's playing better right now than Vandy is.
Really? Wow. You think Utah's playing better than Vandy? You think they are? I think Vandy's just
wow.
So you're a big Utah guy. You're a big Utah guy right now.
Yeah, I was before the year. That's a Texas Tech game. BYU, I kind of fell off a bit, but
you're a big Utah guy. You like Dampier.
Yeah, I watched a ton of them last year in New Mexico. When they played Hawaii last year, when I was over in Italy, 6 a.m, I watched the whole game on my phone on Bus to Venice.
Wow,
that was a fun game. Him and Mika Alejandro. That was a heck of a game.
Yeah. So I mean, just a good ranking so far. And what I think they've really prioritized is teams beating other teams. Like they have Bama over Georgia because Bama beat Georgia. They got Texas over Oklahoma because Texas beat Oklahoma. So they have prioritized on teams beating other teams, which I and they got USC ahead of Michigan. So they have prioritized on head to head. They really have prioritized on head to head in these rankings. That was a big takeaway for me as well last night.
Yeah, it was, and I think that's the way it should be. The games still have to matter. I get it, like maybe week 1, teams are different now than they were week 1, but the head to head still has to matter. That still has to be in a big criteria thing. So I do like that they are prioritizing head to head because that should be there because the games still do matter at the end of the day.
They do. They do. They still matter, and I think they did a good job of that last night. And we'll see what happens with these rankings as the weeks go on. We'll be talking about them every single week, leading our college football show every single week. We'll be talking about those. But we got to move on to the games, and we got a huge matchup in the Big 12. College game day will be there. It'll be this 11 o'clock game in Lubbock as BYU comes in undefeated to face Texas Tech, who has one loss. I think this is a close, competitive game, but I'm going to go with Texas Tech here. I'm going to go with Texas Tech here. They got their quarterback back. I think it's going to be close and competitive, but I'm going with Tech here. I got Tech. They're a 10.5-point favorite, I saw. But I'm going to go with Texas Tech 24-21 over BYU. But, Justin, can the Cougars stay undefeated in Lubbock on Saturday afternoon?
No, I got the Red Raiders 30-17. Yeah, second time game day. You remember the last time game day was there? You
I remember it. The Crabtree game. You just know it, the Crabtree game when that cost Texas playing for the national title that year with Colt McCoy.
Yep. Yeah, that was an awesome game. Mike Leach, that's when he had the Red Raiders rolling, and they're back to it here. And should be a fun one. This is what, I think I've said most of the weeks for Texas Tech going up against a Big 12 opponent. Can that team block Texas Tech? And I don't know if BYU can. BYU's undefeated. They do a lot of the little stuff well, and that's how they're going to have to win this game. Like, they're going to have to force turnovers. They're going to have to stay ahead of the chains because BYU can run the ball. They're going to get their leading rusher back. It sounds like LJ Martin back this week. But third and long for this team with Bear Bachmeier, a freshman quarterback, that Texas Tech pass rush is going to tee off on them, and I think that's where Texas Tech could really have a ton of success. Morton's back, and I think they play pretty well. I think Texas Tech's just a better team in the trenches. BYU's been a good story. Again, I still don't know how good they are, but they've undefeated. They find ways to win football games, but I think this is the week they go down. I think they fall off here in the next couple of weeks. They got a tough schedule coming up, so it's been a good run here for the Cougars. But the next couple of weeks, I wouldn't be shocked, if they lose like at Cincy too, and TCU could be a tough one at home. But I like the Red Raiders here by a couple scores.
Now you say BYU's got a tough schedule. Is the winner of this game a lock to make the college football playoff?
I think so, because I don't think Texas Tech's losing again. I'd love to see a rematch with them, and there's so much I think has to happen for Houston to get there. And I think Cincinnati's a little fraudulent the way they struggled on the road in Utah last week. So they've been a good story, but Sam Levin's done for the years. Jordan Tyson's been banged up for Arizona State. So I just think Texas Tech, and with their schedule, UCF. Scott Frost is building it there. It's going to take some time. And then they got at West Virginia, which they're so banged up that I don't expect them to go to Morgantown and have any problems, last week of the year.
Yeah. So, it looks like, it's a huge game in the Big 12 between Texas Tech and BYU on Saturday in Lubbock. Now we'll move on to the game in Columbia, Missouri between Texas A&M, who I think should be the number one team in the playoff rankings, taking on Missouri. And you said it, Missouri's down to the third-string quarterback. I think that makes a difference. I think Marcel Reed does a good game. I think they force a couple turnovers for Missouri. And I'm going with Marcel Reed and Mike Elko and Texas A&M to stay undefeated. I got them winning this game 30-17 over Missouri. Can Eli Drinkwitz pull off a huge upset and hand A&M their first loss of the year?
Yeah, I think they keep it close. I got the Aggies 24-17. You mentioned Dirkwitz. They've had 2 weeks here to prep for the third-string true freshman. That's Zollers. I thought he looked decent in the little bit of time he played in the second half against Vanderbilt a couple weeks ago. But now you're playing an A&M team that's really good in the trenches. Their weak spot is in that secondary. I don't know if Zollers can kind of be able to, beat that and be able to kind of have a big day through the air there. We'll have to wait and see. And, Matt Hardy, the Missouri's running back, since SEC play started, he's started to slow down. Thing about A&M, though, I forgot to bring this up with Miami last week and how bad they've been in November. Since 2021, A&M is 3-9 in SEC games in the month of November. So
wow.
But
they have a very favorable schedule going. The Texas game will be tough, but they have a very favorable schedule.
They do. Right now. They do. So I do think they get the win here, but I do think Missouri's defense keeps this thing close. Maybe they get Marcel Reed to make a turnover too, but there's just too much unknown with Zoller starting at quarterback for me to kind of really believe in Missouri to pull off this upset here.
Yeah, it should be a good game. Yeah, but I think Texas A&M pulls off the win. Got a rivalry game in Tuscaloosa between a struggling LSU team and Alabama. And I think Alabama cruises in this one. I think Ty Simpson has a big game. I think Jay Miller's good on the ground. I think their defense forces some turnovers from Garrett Nussmeier, and I think Bama wins this. I think they win it by 3 scores. I got Bama here 34-17 over LSU. But Justin, can the interim coach boost help LSU pull off a major upset over Bama?
Yeah, we'll see. I got the Tide as well, 28-13. Frank Wilson, been a head coach at UTSA and McNeese State. He had him practicing during the bye last Tuesday, which is very odd. I don't know what the buy-in is going to be with this LSU team. You never know. This LSU offensive line, though, is not going to get any better because Brian Kelly was fired. You know, Alabama hasn't had much of a pass rush this year. Could this be the week they get it going? You know, both teams have struggled to run the football, and I think the team who has more, you know, and I do think, you know, Ty Simpson's going to have a big day through the year here. Nussmeier's looked healthier the last couple of weeks. Him and Kelly, that A&M game got into in that second half too. I don't know if they didn't have a great relationship either. I think he got benched too, but I think that's when they were down by a couple of scores though. But maybe Nussmeier plays a little bit better. I expect Bama to win this game here, coming off a bye by a couple of scores.
Yeah, I do too. I think Bama wins this by a couple of scores and stays on top, stays undefeated in the SEC. Now, moving on to another SEC game as Georgia heads to Starkville on Saturday afternoon to face Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State hangs in there early, but I think if Georgia eventually pulls away and wins it by double digits, Gunnar Stockton has another big game. He's proven that he's a really, really good quarterback, really good college quarterback. He's done a really good job replacing Carson Beck this year. I think Stockton has a good game. I think Georgia wins it. I got Georgia 31-20 over Mississippi State. But Justin, can Mississippi State pull off a huge upset over the Bulldogs? Could the Bulldogs upset the Bulldogs on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm cheering for the Mississippi State here, but I got Georgia as well, 34-24. Mississippi State finally got over the hump last week. You know, 14-point comeback against the Razorbacks. Now they're playing a Georgia team that's a sandwich spot. You just got the Florida game. You know, you survived that one. Now you got Texas on deck here. They're focused on Mississippi State. We'll see. Because Georgia, 5 of their 6 SEC games have been decided by 10 points or less. Like, they're not, you know, they're not blowing teams out. They're getting off to slow starts. You're going to need a fast one here with the 11 a.m. kick. And, you know, Mississippi State's going to have a great crowd, and they're going to be into it. So, you know, Jeff Lebby runs that beer and shoe offense. And, you know, Kirby Smart's done a pretty good job against that offense. That's what Tennessee runs. So, you know, for the most part, I know this year they put up 40 on them. But I do think Georgia, though, finds a way here. Maybe it's close early, and Georgia does find a way to win by double digits here.
Yeah, I think it's a close competitive game, but I think Georgia ends up in the second half pulling away and staying in the top 5 in the college football playoff race. We got the number 2 team in the country heading to Happy Valley. Again, we thought this game was going to be a good game before the season started, but it is not because Penn State has completely fallen off. And I think, you know, maybe Penn State stays like they did against Ohio State, stays in it for a little bit early in the game. But I think eventually, you know, Mendoza throws it. You saw Penn State's secondary struggle against Ohio State. I think they struggle again against Indiana. I think Mendoza throws 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think Sarai has a big game. I think they're able to run the ball well. I think Grunkenmeyer turns the ball over a couple of times. And I got Indiana covering here. They're 15.5 point. When was the last time Indiana was this? I don't think Indiana's ever been this big of a favorite at Happy Valley. Ever been this big of a favorite in Happy Valley. But I think Indiana wins this game. I got Indiana big here. I got Indiana 35-17 over Penn State in Happy Valley on Saturday. But Justin, can Terry Smith finally get his first win as Penn State interim head coach?
I don't think it's happening this week. I got the Hoosiers as well, 31-20. You mentioned the spread, and yeah, I don't know the last time Indiana's been that big of a favorite at Penn State. You know, 2 years ago, Penn State, when they played, you know, in Happy Valley,
I was at that game.
31.5-point favorite.
I was at that game, and they almost lost that game to Tom Allen's team. They almost lost. It was 24-24 in the fourth quarter. They almost lost that game. You know, I mean, Drew Aller had to make a huge play, had to hit a big play on third down, and they scored a touchdown. And they got a field goal and ended up winning. They almost lost that game to Indiana. I remember they almost lost that game.
Do you remember that game now?
I was at that game. Yeah. I was at that game against Indiana. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be. Yeah, I think you know, Curt Cignetti just completely changed the culture here. Yeah. I think they continue to cruise. I don't think this game's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be close. I think they just continue to cruise. Seeing where Indiana won this year. They went into Iowa, won that game. Went into Oregon. We were so impressed in that game. I think they continue to cruise and they win this game and by 2 or 3 scores. Who would ever think Indiana would ever beat Penn State by 2 or 3 scores at home?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's wild. It's, you know, one of the worst we mentioned. It's one of the worst Power Four programs there was, and Signetti, the way he's turned this thing around so quickly is insane. The guy's been a winner where he's gone. He's done a remarkable job here, and again, he was with Saban on those early Alabama staffs, and I said it last. Like he is very Saban-like. Like nobody's, no, the rat poison, always keeping the foot on the gas, not having these letdown spots. So he's done a remarkable job in such short of a time, and it's remarkable with that Indiana, and Indiana's bought in. He's now the richest coach in college football. They're pouring in NIL for him, so they backed up the trucks for him here. And yeah, a little bit here on Penn State. Kevon Allen, I do have to give him some credit. That guy came back for one thing to win a championship, but he's still running hard. Every snap he has. Yeah. He is running the football. I do think this team continues to play hard, but yeah, I just don't know how much left this team has in them. Were you a little surprised Smith never called those timeouts like before the end of the half last week, or like even close to the end of the game last week? It's a little surprising to call any of them. Just to like try to, audition for the job. But that's my one worry. Like I just don't know. Again, I mentioned last week, like the staffs are getting their resumes in order, getting ready to try to find another job. So I do get that, but we'll see her at home. But I was a little surprised there. I thought maybe he'd try to show something there, but they played hard there for a little bit last week.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Indiana, but they should cruise this week at Penn State. We got an interesting game in Kinnick, Iowa, as 2-loss Iowa faces 1-loss Oregon, and I think this is going to be a competitive game. I think it is. I think it's a tough play. Kinnick's a tough place to play. I think that they're going to hang in the game, but eventually, I think the more talented team is going to win. I think Dante Moore is going to make some key plays in this game. I think Oregon's defense is going to make some key plays, and I'm going to go Oregon here. I'm going to go Oregon to win in Kinnick, Iowa. I got Oregon 24-17 over Iowa, but Justin, can Iowa pull the big upset and really hurt Oregon's playoff chances?
I think it's close. I got the Ducks 23-20. Iowa's got to win the turnover battle in this one. I guess it could be pretty windy in Iowa City and with some rain, so it could be a sloppy football game. What is the Ducks' best win to this point now? Because we thought it was going to be Penn State. It's not. I don't like.
Yeah, they really
Oregon's best win.
Northwestern, probably.
Northwestern. Yeah. I don't think this Oregon team is. I think they're a good team. I think when we talked the Big Ten preview for the year, like I thought this team's 1 year away because they have a ton of sophomore juniors that could all come back next year. And I thought at Penn State game, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they're ahead of schedule. But I'm back to I think they're a year ahead of schedule here. I think they keep it close. The passing game, the offense hasn't clicked the last couple of weeks. I think they needed that bye last week to get going. Sadiq, I think, is going to be back, and they need him to have a big game. Diake Moore is like their one true receiver. I always got to try to slow him down, but Gronkowski he's looked better now that he's been healthy. He's looked better in that offense, and I think this would be an ugly football game. I think Iowa keeps it close here, but I'm going to take Dante Moore to do a little bit more than Mark Gronowski here in this one, and the Ducks to get out of Iowa City with a W.
I think the Ducks win this one and stay in the college football playoff race. We'll stay in the last time we'll talk about the Big Ten. We'll stay in the Big Ten. Washington takes on Wisconsin, and I think Washington's going to win just because they got the better passing game here. I know they've struggled. They struggled when they went to Michigan, but I think they win this one. They got the better passing game. I got Wisconsin here. We got Washington here, 27-14 over Wisconsin.
Yeah, I got the Huskies as well, 27-13. Washington might be going to a true freshman quarterback this week that I don't think he's taken a snap yet this year, which I don't love, but you got to try something at this point. I'm surprised Fickle's there, but I guess that AD gave him the vote of confidence 2 weeks ago, and that AD, I guess, is on the hot seat, so he's probably trying to save his job at this point. But I do think Damon Williams just outplays whoever plays quarterback for Wisconsin this week. I think Washington's defense is pretty good, and I think they slow down Wisconsin. Wisconsin's defense Wisconsin's got a pretty good defense. That will keep them in this football game, but I don't expect anything out of that offense this week. And Damon Williams, as long as he plays a pretty clean game, they get out of there with the win. I think it's supposed to be some rain too up in Madison, so maybe it's a little sloppy, and that could help Wisconsin hang around that one.
All right, we got a matchup in the SEC between Auburn and Vanderbilt. And before we talk about this game first, how surprised were you about Hugh Freeze? I wasn't. I wasn't. Their offense was terrible, and he was an offensive guy. I'm not surprised he got fired.
No, I'm not either. They have a pretty good roster. He hasn't gotten the quarterback right in 3-4 years there. They've lost a ton of close games. I think he's lost his fastball there. It was funny. It kind of broke that he got fired because some burner account, I guess, had the Auburn Country Club golf course, and he had it in his wife's name at tea time at 1:30, and an hour later he got that tea time at 1:30 got canceled. So everybody was like, okay, he's probably fired now. I wasn't shocked either. You can't lose Kentucky at home and score 3 points. So that just never getting the quarterback right kind of hurt him.
Yeah, it definitely did. And for this game here between the two teams, I think that Vandy wins this. I think they win it by 2 scores. I got Vandy here, 3 scores. I got Vandy here 27-10. I think Diego Pavia is going to be too much for. I don't think Auburn's going to be able to deal with Diego Pavia. I got Vanderbilt 27-10 here over Auburn.
I got this one a low scoring 20-13 game here for the Commodores.
Got Auburn giving them a game.
Yeah, I think Auburn. I don't know how fixed their offense is going to be because they just haven't had the quarterback play. Vandy hasn't ran the ball at all the last 2 weeks, and Auburn's defense is pretty good. I think Auburn's defense will keep him in it. And Diego Pavia, when he's got to, kind of, sit back in the pocket and try to beat you with his arm, he'll make mistakes, and you're not really that scared of him. So, look, maybe Auburn finally gets over the hump this week without him and gets the win. But I do think Vandy finds a way to get a close one. I forgot to mention, do you know who Auburn's intern head coach is?
No.
DJ Durkin.
Oh, wow.
The
ex-Maryland coach there.
Yeah. He's a DC. I guess they really like him.
Really? Wow.
He's got a shot, even though with his past at Maryland.
I don't know about his past there. I don't know about his past.
But, hey, if he beats Alabama, he's getting that job, though.
Oh yeah. If he beats Bama, I would say that. Yeah, I would definitely say yes. If he could beat Bama, I think he definitely gets that job. I agree with you there. So we got an ACC matchup. We got Virginia, who right now leads the ACC and who has the bid for the ACC in the college football playoff. They host Wake Forest this week, and I think Tony Elliott's team continues to win. I think they continue to stay hot, continue to win. I got them winning here 30-20 over Wake Forest. And Justin, does UVA, do they continue to stay on top of the ACC?
Yeah, I think so. I got them 30-13. I thought the offense last week, after a couple, poor performances, got back on track last week. I thought Chandler Morris played pretty well. That was a 3-point game with Cal, having with the ball in their hands, and JKS threw a pick 6 with 30 seconds left. So that's why it was like a 10-point game, but it was close. And Wake Forest last week, I like their defense. They didn't play great last week. They're sloppy, 10 penalties, couple of turnovers kind of hurt them at Florida State last week. But I think Wake Forest offense is a problem. And I think UVA, their offense, I think continues to cook this week at home on a Saturday night. I think they win by a couple scores.
All righty, we got Cal, and we got Louisville who's trying to keep pace with Virginia in the ACC. They take on Cal this week. You got Cal and Louisville going at it, and I think Louisville wins this. They win it by 3 scores. I think Jeff Brown's squad wins this big, and they keep pace with UVA. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm with you. I got the Cards as well, 31-14. Cal's one of the worst teams in the country trying to run the football, and Louisville's been really great. So I think Cal's gonna be one-dimensional. JKS, Cal quarterback, probably make some mistakes because I think Louisville's gonna get after him with their pass rush. And Miller Moss makes enough plays as long as they don't turn the football over, keep Cal in it. I think they roll in this one Saturday night down there in Louisville. I really like the way the defense is playing. I think that continues against Cal.
All right, we got a matchup between Navy and Notre Dame. This game's in South Bend, right? Saturday night in South Bend.
Yep, it's South Bend. Yep.
South Bend. I think Jeremiah Love is a huge game. I think that TJ Carr plays well. And last year they hyped the Navy Notre Dame game. It was a total blowout. I think it's gonna be the same thing this year. I think Notre Dame wins this. I got them 38-17 over Navy. Justin, does Notre Dame continue to stay hot?
Yeah, I got the Irish 41-14. See, the years where Navy sneaks up on Notre Dame is a year when Navy's 3-5. Notre Dame gets their attention when they're 7-1 like they are this year. And I think, I don't think it'd be close because Navy's defense is pretty bad. And I just think this is Navy's best chance is to have a couple 15 plays, 80-yard drives in this one. It just chews up the clock, but their defense is great. Play quarterback can't throw the football, their quarterback. He can't sling it around, so they're probably going to need him to do that a little bit to keep Notre Dame off balance in this one. But I think Notre Dame they looked awful last week against Boston College, but I do think they were getting ready for Navy and installing some triple option stuff defensively. Probably overlooked Boston College, so they got out of there with a win here. But I do think they take care of business. I don't think Navy's get many stops in this one.
All righty, we got a matchup Friday night in the Big Ten. We'll wrap up with college football with this. We got Northwestern and USC, and I think USC wins this. I think they win it big. I got them 30. I got Maviev having a big game. I got USC 38-20 over Northwestern. But Justin, can Northwestern end any hope of USC making the college football playoff?
I don't think so. I got the Trojans 27-13. USC got lucky to win last week. If Dylan Raiola didn't get hurt, he broke his fibula. I think Nebraska wins that football game because the backup's even worse than Raiola is. So, USC, Maeva did not play great last week. They did just enough. The defense played pretty well. Northwestern's going to want to run the football, and I think USC's got to be able to slow that down. I think they will. I don't love Preston Stone. He's got a big arm, but he'll turn it over. And I think Maeva bounces back this week. The Trojans are getting a little bit healthier. I like the Trojans on Friday to take care of business, and being at home, helps too. And even Lincoln Riley, week doesn't go by without him complaining about the travel.
Yeah, but that's why. But you want to join the Big Ten. You want to join the Big Ten, so don't blame anyone but yourself. You wanted to join the Big Ten. You wanted to get the money. You could have played out. You could have played out west, but you wanted all the money. So don't complain about that. So let's get wrapped up for college football. We'll wrap up the show with some college basketball. And last night, Duke beat Texas 70-65. Led by Cam Boozer with a double-double for Duke. And the big question for Duke is, can this team get? They lost a lot from last year. Can they get back to the Final Four? Can Shire get back to the Final Four with this team?
I think they're a second weekend team. I think they have the talent to get back to the Final Four. I've never been a big John Shire guy as a coach, and I think that could kind of be the difference. I think the thing, if they can get Isaiah Stevens to shoot as well as he did last night, I think they're in really good shape. But they got to get a little bit more from the bench for me to really love them. And they're soft too. They're not a good rebounding team. But again, you're soft because you got you got your own TikTok room. Like tough to most programs wouldn't install something like that. So I think they're a talented team. But again, we've talked about this the last couple of years. I don't know if you can win the freshman anymore with the transfer portal and teams going junior, senior loaded. It's tough to win with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. So they have the talent. I think I've been a little bit lower on them going in the year because I just if you didn't win last year, I think last year's team is shouldn't say a lot more talented, but last year's team is definitely more talented than this year's squad. So I think they're a second weekend team. Wouldn't be shocked they're sitting there in Indianapolis in the first weekend of April.
Yeah. I mean, I think they could. I think it's a national program. I mean, I haven't seen. This was the first time I saw them last night. I think they could. I think they have a chance to get there. But again, there won't be as good as last year because they don't have a player. Because I don't think Cam Boozer is going to be as good as Cooper Flag. So I don't think they'll be as good as last year. Now for Texas, where do they stand? Last year they were like 10th or 11th in the SEC. Where does Texas stand in the SEC right now? And are they an NCAA tournament team in Sean Miller's first year?
I think they're bottom 5 in the SEC. I don't think they're great. I don't think they have the talent to match up with most of the SEC teams at the top here. Their best offense last night was just crashing the offensive glass and just because they can't shoot the ball. And so I don't love this Texas team. I think they're last year they were in the playing game. I think they could be right there again, or they're on the outside looking in. I don't think I'd be surprised if they, even if they get in, I think they're like a 10 seed at best. Like I don't think they have the talent, because I thought just watching it, like Duke pulled away there at the end and they won by 15, but I think Duke was a more talented team. They don't have a ton of shooters there, so I think they're going to show in SEC play. So I think they're bottom 5. I don't have high hopes for this Texas team, and I'm not a big Sean Miller fan. I think the second time around at Xavier, I thought it was very underwhelming.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. It definitely was. You're right about that. So let's wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about week 11 of the NFL season and week 12 of the college football season. Have a great weekend, everyone.